Hello again. I'm back with another clock to repair. This one is a Seth Thomas I found at a local thrift store. The owner thought that it was a working clock, but when he plugged it in for me, it turned out that it wasn't, which was exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not sure of the age of this one. On the bottom is what's left of a Seth Thomas label, and underneath it I see some numbers that might be a date code. Once I peel this off, I might know for sure. If not, very often Seth Thomas places dates on various parts inside the clock. It's a wood case that's kind of beat up, but I think it can be cleaned and end up looking pretty good. What I want to do first, I'm just going to moisten this label to make it easy to peel off, and then I'll look to start opening it up. Just a little bit of water. So, several screws back here. 2, 4, looks like 6, with some in the middle here as well. And we'll start with these. But before I do, I see I have here a set knob, which is working. And I'm going to have to remove that in order to get the back plate off of it. And this is held on by a screw. So we'll take this one off first. This is very reminiscent of the type of set knobs that I see on Sangamo clocks. Got some kind of thread here of some sort. Anyway, let me get these screws out next. I'm thinking, because of these 3 screws here, when I lift this plate out, I think the whole clock's going to come out attached to this plate. One more. There you go. One interesting thing about Seth Thomas clocks, they're one of the few companies that make it with the second hand is behind the minute and the hour hand. Anyway, let me take a closer look at this before I look to take it to further take it apart. And when I know how I want to approach it, I'll continue. Okay, what I have here is a Sangamo motor. And the reason that it is in a Seth Thomas clock, some of the history is that the Sangamo company was founded in 1899, but in 1931 they were purchased by GTI, the General Time Instruments Corporation. But prior to that, in 1930, Seth Thomas merged or combined with West Clocks, and they formed a new company, a holding company that was GTI. And that is when Seth Thomas began using Sangamo motors. One thing I know about these motors is that very often there'll be dirt inside which stops them from working, but we'll find out once I get it open. The first thing I want to do is remove the back plate, but so that I don't lean and damage the hands any, let me take the hands off first. They're held on with a screw. And I can also mention that based on the history of Seth Thomas, I'm pretty sure this clock had to be made sometime after 1930. There's a washer, the minute hand. It's a little tight. and the second hand is usually attached to a stem, I think, on the inside. I won't be able to remove that until I remove the dial. So this will have to stay put. So next up, undo these 3 screws. And they are tight. Appears as if this power cord was glued into the grommet here. Some old dried glue around it. I also wanted to check the bottom of the case, see if I can scrape off this label. See what writing is under here. Okay, it looks like, maybe the letter J and 00. I don't know what that means. And over here is a number 2. Anyway, it doesn't appear to be much of a date code. So, back to this. Now, let's plug it in again. See if I can get the motor working by just giving it a spin. Well, there you go. Looks like just spinning it a few times has loosened it up. Now it's running. However, I still plan to take the whole thing apart, give it a good cleaning, re-lubricate everything. But good to know that it works. So, to take this apart, 3 screws hold the motor on. So let's start with that. Now the way this is connected with the wire, I really can't separate the motor from the power cord. So I'm going to just have to clean it up as it sits here. Just as an example of what kind of dirt might be in here. A bit of dried oil around here. A lot of dirt and oil on this part as well. All right. I'll have to clean this up separate from this. Let me take a closer look to figure out how I'm going to separate this plate so I have access to the gears. So give me some time to figure out how that's going to go. One thing I just noticed is there's a clip holding this wire to this back plate. And there's a screw here, I think, so I can undo it and totally remove the power cord. And that'll make it a lot easier to work on. All right, put this here. And let's remove this thread or whatever's on here. I have no idea what the purpose of this was. Most unusual. Now I'm not seeing any screws over here to remove this plate, so perhaps the second hand can be removed from here. So let me give that a try. Let's see what we have here. Put this here. And we got it. All right, get back here. Now the dial should come off. And I see two very small screws here. Look at that. I missed that. Very small. There you go. So now, these are the 3 nuts to undo to remove the whole mechanism. And I'm also seeing, interesting, I see the date code. It says 1239. So this clock is made in December of 1939. All right, let me work on loosening up these next. I'm looking at this, and I think once I remove these 3, this plate is going to come off of here, but these 2 plates should still stay together. And that way the gears won't go falling out. So let's see what happens. We have a nut and a washer. Okay. Now you know what? I'm going to mark how this goes, so I know I put it back in the same position. So to do that, the easiest way will be something like this. Okay, I think, I'm not sure, this plate might be able to lift off. There's a little washer here, which I don't think, oh, okay, they're on each of these holes, have them. Okay, have to make a note of that. I can remove it, and there's a sleeve that sticks out, and that's facing up. So they sit like that. All right. Now when I lift this plate, some gears I think are going to come with it. So let's see what happens here. Okay. Before I do anything else, I'm going to take a few photos of how these are sitting before they get too knocked out of position. So let me do that. It turns out this is a rather complex arrangement. I'll try to zoom in and show you. First of all, I had to label the parts to keep track of actually how they seat. This came out, I wrote the word top so I know which side is up. And as far as how these plates fit against each other, I put a couple of red dots. So that's how they'll seat. The other unusual thing is, one is this gear kind of floats. It sits on a post here. And when this part is seated over it, there's a pin that's going to engage that gear. And this pivot here will fit into a hole between these two. And it really takes a lot of manipulating to get everything into the proper position. But I think I know how they go. As far as what can be removed, this comes off. These are not really coming out. I don't see the need to pull off the gear at the end of this one. I can clean that up while it's on the plate. But these can be easily removed. So what I'm going to do, and this is the set knob stem. Oh, and this can come out through here. I'm going to look to clean everything up. I have to be careful with this gear. This is a resin gear, sort of like Bakelite plastic, and definitely coated with a lot of oil and grease and dirt. So we'll clean all of this up. I'll look to reposition everything, and then I'll work on cleaning the motor. As promised, it's back together. Everything seems to be moving properly. The one thing that I did, however, was I placed the nuts in position to secure everything nice and tight, but now I have to remove them so that I can get this plate back on. So I'm going to do that pretty much on my own. I'll just start to loosen them because I don't want the plate to pop up, causing any of these gears to fall out of place. One. There's two. Come on. And three. This, and you remember I made the little black mark here, will line up with this one. And now I'm going to seat the washers and then the three nuts, and I'll just secure it on my own just to save a little bit of time. Everything is secured. Now at this point I could seat the dial, place those 2 small screws and then the hands, but I think I want to clean and lubricate the motor and then reattach that first. So let me put this aside. I just have to clean off all the dirt and oil on the stem here. This gear has a lot of dried up oil and dirt on it. Let's just see how much dirt's actually going on in here. I'll use a bit of alcohol with a small brush. And you can see just how much dirt came off of this. And I'll pretty much go over this several times until the brush finally comes out clean. So that'll take a few minutes, clean up all of this and this as well. Once it's done, I'll reassemble it. I'll be ready to put it back into the mechanism. The motor has been cleaned. I have to lubricate it. I've removed the leg support clamps, and what I need to do is place some oil on the end of the stem here, as well as the pivot on this end. And I'm also going to place some in here. And this will seat in the movement like that, so I have to lubricate where that stem seats, which is the hole right through here. Now to put this together, that fits there, and this I have to guide in. Like that. Okay, so place the 3 screws here to secure it, and then I'm also going to place the clamp back into position here. Let me do that on my own. The motor is back on. Before I do anything else, let me plug it in and make sure that it is working. So, got it plugged in, turn it on, and it's running. Nice and quiet too. So, what I want to do next is position the dial. Which will sit here. I'm going to secure it with those 2 small screws, and then once that's in, before seating the hands, I'm going to turn my attention to the case, clean up what I thought was glass, but I think this is plastic, which is kind of a surprise to me, as well as see what I can do with the overall case. Let me show you a tip for handling very small screws. You need a pair of pliers that are sort of bent, curved, and then grab the screw just below the head. So it's like this. Then you're able to position it in the hole, and you can hold it upright while you go to screw it in. Anyway, let me get the other one in, and then I'll be ready to work on the case. The dial is on. What I want to do is just show you some of the products that I'll be using to go over the case. To clean the dirt off the wood, I have a wood floor cleaner, which works pretty well. And that will be followed up with Howard's Restore Finish, which really does a great job hiding scuffs and scratches and blends all the any discolorations in. And that's this. And because this is plastic and not glass, once I clean it up, if I see any scratches on it, a great product to remove them is called Novus. They have 3 different strengths. 2 tends to be good enough for most plastic surfaces that you want to clean up. So let me get to work on that. And one more thing, if you were paying close attention, you might have noticed that I forgot to seat the gear on the front of the plate, the one that I labeled top. So I had to take the dial off, seat that, and then put this back on. Anyway, let me work on the case. One interesting thing is that I found this clock in the 1940 Seth Thomas catalog, and the model is the Chaumont, that's Chaumont, and the description reads that it's a French provincial design with a self-starting electric movement in a light natural mahogany case. What I want to do now is start cleaning it, and I'll show you how well this works. Spray a little on. And you can see how much dirt comes off of it. So let me go over the whole case with this, and then I'll follow up with the Howard's Restore finish. The case is clean. I think it looks a lot better, and I was rather amazed at just how much dirt came off of it. This cloth was completely clean before I started, and all this dirt's from the case. And before doing the Restore finish, I think I'm going to look to clean the plastic next. I cleaned the plastic, and it turns out that there weren't any scratches on it, and it came out looking quite good. So now I'll use my Restore finish, and the way that works is just apply a little bit of it with a cloth. You wipe it on, and then you wipe it right off. You can see it gives it a nice shine, blends in some of the scuffs and scratches. I'm going to go ahead and do it to the entire case. I'm done with the case, and I think it came out looking really good. So next, before putting the hands back on the clock, I think what I'm going to do is position the back plate. Let's see, which way is the 12 here? So this will sit like that. I just have to secure it with the 3 screws, which I have here. So I'll go ahead and do that on my own. The plate is secured. Now I'm going to seat the hands. The first one is the second hand, which can go anywhere. Now to synchronize the other hands, I have to seat the minute hand first because it only goes one way, and then turn it to the 12. Remove it, and then seat the hour hand also at the 12. And then again the minute hand. There's this washer that sits over it, and then a small screw. Now I'm ready to place it back into the case. Okay, I have the 6 screws to place here. Again, I will do that on my own, and then we'll continue from there. I've tightened 5 of them. I have one more. Okay, and lastly, I have to reposition the set knob. And a very small screw will hold that in place. All right, let me get this set up on my workbench. We'll plug it in and we'll give it a final look. It's up, and I added one final touch to it. I placed felt pads over the wooden feet so it doesn't damage any furniture that it might sit on. I have it plugged in. Let me turn it on. And it's running. So there you have it. It's a Seth Thomas, what I'm calling a desk clock. The model is the Chaumont, and it was made in December of 1939. I'm really quite pleased with how this one came out. I think it's a really good looking clock. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. And that pretty much wraps things up. Bye for now.